Do we have any questions? I mean, if this is, boy, I mean, I get burned at the stake for this sermon. I mean, do you guys have any questions? Or, of course, I'm sure we've all heard this. I mean, the other side, the side I'm arguing against, we probably all heard it. Yes, dear.
What are the three again? The two that are wrong, and then the one that you say
that
you're born.
You have the organic view that says you're born with a physical sin, lust. You have the federal headship view. It simply says you're accountable for Adam's sin because somehow you participated in it. Then you have the Arminian view, which I think is legitimate. I just object to using the term original sin. They say you inherit a bias or an inclination to sin. And I think that can be proven with just a drug baby. But again, Scripture says it only lasts to the third and fourth generation. So we do inherit a bias or an inclination, but it does go away if we live holy lives. And then the fourth view is just that we have a free will. And when a child, the whole question, are you born good or born evil? It's really a false dilemma. It's a false premise. Because there's a third alternative, which is neither. You're not born good or evil. It says in Romans 9:11, the children not yet being born, not having yet done any good or evil. It assumes that good and evil is something other than a voluntary choice. The whole question assumes that principle, that good and evil are something other than voluntary choices. So when someone says, are you born good or born evil, it's a false dilemma and it's a false assumption. Because good and evil are choices. So we're born with the ability to obey God, and the tragedy is nobody's done it. The tragedy is that all men, like sheep, have gone astray. The tragedy is that we've all turned to our own way.
Christ always did the will of the Father.
Is that for Christ? Who took on human nature. It says, as the children take on the same, it says that Christ, it says in Hebrews, partook of the same. What we have is what Christ had. It says He partook of the same. And He made in the likeness of sinful flesh, condemned sin in the flesh. And thereby He showed us how condemned we really are, because He took on the same nature and did nothing but is pleasing to God. Where we have this nature, and look at what we're doing with it. And so, of course, Christ was a man, partook of the same thing we partake of, and He condemned sin. So the greatest tragedy of it all, saying that we're not born sinners, some people think, well, that's a bit of an optimistic view. You know, well, if you're not born a sinner, you're a bit optimistic. But in reality, this view is more pessimistic. Some say we're all born with a free will. We're all born with the ability to obey God, and nobody's done it. We could have, but we didn't. Whereas in their view, you couldn't have. So it's not really pessimistic on their part, but I guess it is more of a negative view on my perspective, that everyone had a free will. Nobody had to sin. Nobody had to disobey God, but everyone did it. All of us, and people are going to continue to do it. And so that gives a negative reflection on our character, whereas the other view gives a negative reflection upon our constitution, which is a big difference. Any other questions? Did I answer your yeah? And sometimes people think, well, boy, if you deny original sin, it's like you're denying sin. It's like you're denying men are sinners. You know, but you're not. You're simply saying men are sinners by choice, not by birth. They're sinners by character, not by constitution. That it's an ethical thing, not a metaphysical thing.
Well, and just my observation with the little bit of work I've done on the street is people always point to this as the reason they can sin and they can't help sin, that everybody's a sinner. And then ultimately, many times it leads right back to they blame God.
Yeah.
They point right back to God and say, God made us sinners.
Yeah.
God made us sin. I'm going, that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
And God doesn't tempt any man.
That's right.